Hi, I'm Surabhi. I'm from Heads Up for Tales, and in this week's Learn with Huff episode, I have Adamya joining me. Adamya is a pet parent to 3 lovely dogs, and he has a question for us today. Hi, Adamya. What is your question?
Hey, so I have 3 doggos at home, Kobe, Friendly and Cooper. Kobe and Friendly are actually quite hyper as dogs. They've always been hyper. And sometimes I try different things for them to calm down, but usually it helps, doesn't help. I wanted to know what is the best way to calm down hyper dogs, or Kobe and Friendly in this case.
Yeah. And can you tell me a couple of instances where they're really hyper?
So it's usually Kobe when he sees a dog on the streets, when he's looking down from the window or the balcony, or it's when somebody new enters the home, a stranger, or it's even probably just me and my brother coming back home from work. Usually those instances on a regular basis.
Yeah, fair enough. So in general, I think with hyper dogs, it's really helpful to do like a lot of calming activities. So calming activities could essentially include a lot of sniffing, a lot of problem solving, a lot of thinking work. So for example, when you have guests over and Kobe gets really hyper, what's helpful at that point in time is, let's say, to do a little bit of a treat scatter. So you scatter treats in a along a surface area, let him sniff, give him a snuffle mat.
Right. So we tried that,
Yeah.
but what happens is he usually loses interest.
Right.
And now he's not so stimulated by a snuffle mat.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I've met Kobe, so he's definitely like a really smart dog. And so I think it's helpful.
I wouldn't say that, but yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But I think it's also helpful to think about like rigor levels, right? So for example, another thing that could be really helpful is chewing. So, just keeping a couple of like chew bones right at the entrance.
Right.
As soon as you come in, you sort of hand that over. I think a lot about your demeanor when you're entering, if you're also equally excited.
Right, so that sort of, they pick that up.
Absolutely. So if you're calm and neutral, then they're also calmer and neutral. But I think that any exciting event needs to immediately met with a calming activity. And that could be, for example, in Kobe's case, it could be chewing. That works better for him.
I think it's also about like distracting them.
Well,
in a way.
Yes, I mean distracting them, but not like stupidly, right?
Can I give them math problems?
Knowing Kobe, he'll probably
he's
solve that. Exactly.
Yeah, he'll probably solve it.
Yeah, but you get the gist, right? It's
I do.
distraction with a purpose.
Right.
I think though with the dog to dog piece, I think that definitely requires like behavioral intervention, which I think is a more deeper one-on-one conversation as opposed to like a video format.
Yeah.
But I think in general, if you keep in mind like a repertoire of sniffing, problem solving with puzzles, chewing, those are really your calming activities to think about.
Also, if you're very hyper as a person, which I am, I think it becomes harder. Right, because they sort of play on that.
So think about sniffing and chewing for
I'm going to start
yourself
sniffing. I'm going to start using a snuffle mat. Things to keep in mind.
You can start with the basic level at Heads Up for Tales and start
it's probably
with that.
These tips are probably for me more than my dogs.
Possibly.
Yeah.
But I think you should also keep in mind, and I know this about Kobe, right, that often dogs also get really hyper when they're struggling with pain.
Right.
So I think a lot of people just assume that if a dog is in pain, they will be more demure, less moving.
Right.
But if he's also a really anxious dog,
right,
then a lot of the nervous energy can come across as hyperactivity.
No, that makes sense because we observed this with Friendly after he had the biting episode that you know of. I think he was more hyper. After that. So that probably that does make sense.
So I think then the pain and anxiety need to be addressed very differently. Calming activities will help. But I think it's then just helpful to sort of look at a holistic intervention then for both dogs.
Would you also recommend anything dietary or no? It's more to do with
no, I think diet for sure goes a really long way. I think one, just making sure that they're eating really wholesome, balanced meals. But I also think that for dogs that are really hyper, anxious, stressed, I think just making sure that there is enough complex carbohydrates into the diet goes a really long way. So consider stuff like...
So no sedatives then?
No. I mean, again, I think the whole piece
Just checking. I'm just checking.
The whole piece
Could
around...
be weekly. I'm just checking.
So behavior medications do work. But again, they have to be prescribed by a vet. And not all dogs need them.
Right. Yeah, right, sure.
But a lot of it can be
Yeah.
addressed actually through a lot of lifestyle management. So you may want to sort of first consider that.
Yeah. Maybe
and
get their
then-
consent first.
Yeah.
Sure.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that makes sense. Thank you so much. I think
Yeah.
these are tips that I could definitely try. Start with the behavioral aspect and then see how that works on them.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Awesome. We're going to have many more conversations like these. So if you have questions pertaining to your dogs, feel free to send them in. You can comment down below with your questions and we will feature them in the upcoming videos.